So, hello all. Please watch the YouTube video about CIA triad that I posted on our Facebook group. And on this video, I talk about confidentiality. So it's the C from CIA triad. And basically, it means that we want to restrict the access to data to only those people who are authorized to see or use the data. So basically it means that single set of data is accessible to one or more authorized people or systems and nobody else should be able to see it. And we can basically divide this into two parts. We have the offline or basically physical part and then the online part, which refers to internet and emails and intranets and so on. And please, in the YouTube video, there was more talk about the online stuff. And on this slide set, it focuses more on the physical or offline side of confidentiality. And basically the offline stuff means that it's the actual physical things like you lock your doors and windows when you leave your house, so that you basically need either key or some passcode to get in, or you lock your car when you leave it to the parking lot, or for example having a security guard at the gate into some building, or you might have a dog who would bark at unknown visitors who come to your house. And basically, if you have ever visited a big company like Nokia or VTT in Oulu or something like that, they usually will they make you wait in the lobby before somebody comes and picks you up. So this is another example of confidentiality. You can't basically walk around the company by yourself. You will usually get this visitor badge, and you have to wear that all the time you are visiting the company. So that's another example of how big companies deal with confidentiality and on a physical side. And if you Google and look around, you'll find plenty of these general guidelines how to tackle confidentiality. For example, you should take a walk around the building and look for unlocked windows and doors to make sure that you lock them and that no unauthorized people can easily get in. Or you can check for areas of concealment or obstruction, such as bushes or shrubs directly beneath windows. Or you can check for poor lighting conditions and so on. Please check the list. So here are then a couple examples of how people actually try to gain access to unauthorized places. So for example, shoulder surfing, dumpster diving and tailgating. So shoulder surfing basically means that when you are, for example, logging into your computer or entering your PIN at the ATM, somebody will be there basically looking over your shoulder and they kind of try to see the password or the PIN number that you are entering. So for example, you might be trying to log into Facebook and somebody might be on a computer behind you and looking at your keyboard to try to see what is the password you try to enter. And maybe a more common example is this PIN at the ATM. If you are, for example, a little bit drunk and you stand there and you try to get the PIN right, it's easy for somebody to watch from behind you and try to see the PIN number and then later on somehow try to steal your credit card. Or if it's like a physical door with some code, it's also quite easy to try to see what is the code that people use to open the door. And dumpster diving is exactly as it sounds. So you go into dumpsters and look for classified information that somebody might put to the trash and you might find it in dumpster. And that's why usually in bigger organizations you have to shred all the papers. You kind of dispose them not in the normal dumpster but some other safe place. And tailgating is basically following somebody close enough that when they, for example, open a locked door, you can sneak in. So you see this a lot in the movies where the spy has to get into some place, so they wait for somebody to open the door and then they sneak in. So shoulder surfing, dumpster diving and tailgating are just some examples of how to get access into some places people are not authorized to go. And there's kind of a special, it's not science, but special term, and it's called social engineering, which relates to these. It's basically using psychological manipulation of people into getting something they want, and in this case, for example, getting access to confidential information. And there's some techniques for that as well, and usually these are quite common, so much more common than you might anticipate. And the first one is pretexting or role-playing, and then there's baiting, phishing, and something called quid pro quo. So pretexting is basically that you are pretending to be somebody else. So this was also called role-playing. So you claim to be co-worker or police or from bank or something like that. So you might pretend to be a police and then knock on somebody's door and then identify as being police and say that you need to check in to find some stolen stuff or something like that. So typically you are creating or using an invented scenario to engage the victim in a manner that increases the chance that the victim will give you some information or perform some actions that they would normally not do. Phishing then is a technique for fraudulently obtaining private information, and this is basic email scams, for example. So you get an email that appears to be from, for example, a bank, and then they say that your account has been locked or stolen or something like that, and you need to verify your information. Please input your login name and password to see that it's working or something like that. So you probably all have received some emails like that. Baiting is then basically leaving something physical in a place it will be found. So it might be parking lots or company lobbies or something like that. The people leave, for example, a memory stick that has some malware in it, so a program that basically installs itself into the computer and opens a backdoor or something like that, that the attacker can then later use that software to get access to the system. So the attacker leaves a memory stick, for example, on a lobby, and somebody will pick it up and then insert it into the computer to see who it belongs to. And when they input it into the computer or insert, that's when the malware starts running and installs itself, or maybe it installs some other Trojan horse into the computer. So that's baiting. And final one is, it basically means something for something. An example of this would be that the attacker calls random numbers in the company and tells them that he or she is from the IT support and they want to help you somehow. And normal people, or usually people, will say that their computer is fine, they don't need any help. But if they keep on calling, at some point they will call somebody who actually needs help. And basically they will then help them by, for example, installing malware or Trojan horse or something like that again. And most of these social engineering techniques are based on how we humans make decisions. So they use something called cognitive bias. So basically these different attack techniques utilize these different biases that we have. So please check Wikipedia list of these cognitive biases and compare these, for example, these into those, that which biases they are using. So that's a short video about the slide set. Thanks, guys.